And welcome back to In the Know. Willard Shepard with Willard Shepard Law and Media here at Miami Community News. And we are honored today to have one of our great community servants with us and my neighbor.
Yes.
In North Miami-Dade County, Miss Annette Jose, the Director of Miami-Dade County Animal Services. So first of all, welcome. Thanks for your long service to our community. And you have a gigantic job on your hands because all of us love our pets and we want to make sure that they're cared for and have good homes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Willard. Yes, it is a very large job, but I'm very happy and dedicated to this community service.
Let's talk a little bit about how you ended up here. First of all, you and I have something in common, Florida International University. I
Yes.
always brag about my law school and say we have the highest bar passage rate in the state of Florida. But we'll also give a shout out to the Canes.
Yes, let's give a shout out to the Canes, my favorite college football team for sure.
There you go. We'll go all
like
about
this,
the U.
right?
There we go. So after you got your master's there, you actually worked in the finance and business world. So tell me a little bit about that and how that applies to what you're doing now.
Well, my finance degree opened the door to Bayview Financial. It's a local mortgage banking firm here in Coral Gables. But after 14 years of being there and learning a lot, working directly with the CFO, I felt like I wanted to do something that was more of service to the community. So that led me to child welfare. I was with Our Kids of Miami-Dade for 5 years. And there I rose up to the position of COO. It was a very difficult, as you know, child welfare, very difficult job, but very rewarding as well. And then when the contract went to another agency, I moved over to animal services because it had similarities of child welfare, adoption, fostering, and still being able to give back to my community.
Tell me about it. We're going to put some pictures up of your fantastic facility that people don't know exactly where it is. It's over right next door to Doral. Actually, they're on 79th Street, just west of the Palmetto Expressway near 36th Street. You have a wonderful facility that's over there. Tell me about your overall and biggest mission in the community.
Well, our biggest mission is to save the lives of animals, right? And to provide a better life for them. So if you come out to our facility, you'll see that it's a state-of-the-art shelter. It's we house about 350 dogs at normal capacity and about 100 cats also at normal capacity. Today, we're way over. But it's a shelter that provides enrichment to our dogs and makes sure that they're giving the best care as possible.
Some people may think, oh, it's just a dog, it's just a cat. But there's also a safety aspect of this to our community and also a health aspect to our community. Address both of those.
Absolutely. And that's a very important point because we have to make sure that every dog that we adopt out is not presenting a risk to that family. So it's a big responsibility to make sure that they're assessed for behavior, that they have their rabies vaccine, another health concern, right? So we ask everyone to make sure that they're taking their dogs and cats to get their rabies vaccines and get trainers, help you manage your dog, make sure it's on a leash when it's outside. When you're at a dog park, especially, you have to be real careful. And, responsible pet ownership. That's what we always want to strive for.
I'll add on the legal side of it. In my own legal practice, I have unfortunate incidents where animals have attacked individuals.
Yes.
And the owner and the person in care and custody of an animal at the time is responsible here in the state of Florida, what we call strict liability, to make sure that other people are protected. So as you mentioned, make sure you have a proper leash, make sure your dog is trained properly, because you are responsible when you have an animal to make sure that other people are protected.
Absolutely. Even for the safety of your own family when you're at home, it's important to know that we have to be respectful of dogs and make sure that we're looking at their body language and make sure that we're being safe around them.
What do you want people to do if they see I'll use the word unattached animal? I don't like the word stray. I think that has a negative connotation to it. obviously an animal doesn't desire to be in that situation. So what do you want people in our community to do if they see a dog or a cat that is unattached?
Well, we know that most unattached dogs are just lost. And the best thing to do is keep them in their neighborhood. So things like Nextdoor is actually very effective to reunite pets and their pet owners. So the first thing we ask is just hold on to the dog for a day or two, because the closer it is to its home, the more likely it is it's going to find its way back home. Post signs on social media, put flyers up in your community, even your local Publix or grocery store. That's going to help the dog get back to its owner. Of course,
so generally, a dog is not traveling great distances.
No, it's just, within a few blocks radius of where it lives. The other thing we ask you to do is microchip. Microchipping is the most effective way for us to be able to reunite you with your pet, because that's going to, when we scan the dog, we find the microchip. It has a specific identifying number that links to the pet owner and their address. So we at Animal Services will bring the dog right back to you, or you can come over and find it if it's at the shelter.
Okay. We have this beautiful backdrop here behind us, but as we're all aware, Brickell, downtown Miami, more people living in condominiums and, high rises, but who are also pet owners, and we have a more dense population in the county than we used to. What advice do you have for pet owners and people that are actually operating these types of buildings as we get a more dense population so that pets are properly cared for, and that other residents who may not even own pets or may not be pet lovers, that's hard to imagine, but that they also feel like that their space is protected?
Yeah, well, again, it's very important to get training. I think a lot of people think you just get a dog, bring it home, and that's it. But no, like you said, in Brickell, they're going to be sharing space in elevators or in lobbies, and you have to be very aware of keeping your dog close to you on a leash, making sure that it's not going towards other dogs that are in the building. Also, when you approach a dog, there's a proper way to do that. You want to do it carefully, just so that you don't startle the dog. So again, training, maybe even just watching videos online, that's simple if you can't get to a trainer. But, be a responsible pet owner.
Okay. Let's talk about the types of dogs, and there's so many times a lot of confusion, so that you can straighten it out about, is there any type of breed of animal that is not allowed in Miami-Dade County?
Not anymore. So as of October 1st, that pit bull ordinance that was banning a specific breed was lifted. So now all dogs are welcomed, all sizes. It just depends on your HOA, or, there's some restrictions when it comes to housing.
I've generally found, and from my military duty, I was able to take from the vendor and train my dogs with the police and these types of things, that had a tremendous amount of obedience training, but also had the ability for protection training as well, which is a tremendous responsibility. And that's not something that I advise most people to do. But from my military background, I was, able to do that. When you're talking about the breed of a dog, what I normally found was it's the owner, the way the dog trains, and that we don't want to stereotype against a dog, just like in a breed of dog, like we don't want to stereotype against people.
Absolutely. That's so important. And just to add to that, we also don't want to stereotype in the type of dog you think is going to be perfect for your family. A lot of times we think, oh, we want that fluffy poodle-looking mix. But no, a large bully breed dog can be just as affectionate and just as loving as a little poodle.
So at the facility, if you had a breakdown of the categories of breeds, okay, what do we have?
We have big dogs, mostly. We call them bully breeds. That's a large population that we have. But like I said, they're all loving and affectionate dogs that can go to a home and be with you for the rest of their lives and provide a lot of love to that home.
In light of that, just from people visually looking at the dog, walk us through what happens from when a dog first comes into your care and custody, and the things that you do before you allow a family to be able to take that dog and make it their own?
Well, the first thing we do is make sure we check for a microchip, just to see, is this a lost dog? Does it belong to someone? And can we contact them and reunite them? So that's the most important thing that we do in the first few hours that the dog comes into our facility. Then we will check to see if it has, well, not check, we'll vaccinate it, make sure that it's healthy. We'll check it, just a veterinary wellness check on the dog. And then there's a required time period that we wait, and we post it on our website to allow the public to look for their dog and hopefully reunite. If the allotted time passes and the dog
What is that time
3
period?
days.
3 days, okay.
3 days. If after 3 days, then the dog is really open and free for adoption. So we'll spay or neuter the dog so that we can have it ready to go for adoption when someone comes into the shelter. Now, when someone comes into the shelter, a lot of times they have a very specific dog that they have in mind, but we'll ask them, what does your family look like? Do you have small children? Do you live in an apartment? So that we can make a good match. We don't want someone to take a dog that it doesn't fit in their family and then have to return it. So those are why our adoption counselors ask a lot of questions, get to know you, and then we'll do a meet and greet in our play yards with 1, 2, or 3 dogs that they think would make a good match. And if you have a dog, we'll invite you to bring your pet. You know, maybe you're looking for a second pet. We'll invite you to bring it and do a meet and greet in our play yards to see how they get along, how they interact, again, to make sure when you take our shelter dog home, it's going to be a good fit for your family.
On the other end of the spectrum, what do you do with people? Of course, we have what I will say is a rent crisis in our community here.
Yeah.
Something I've talked to the mayor about. Many people feeling that I can't afford to keep my pet anymore.
Yeah.
What do you want them to do?
Well, we want them to reach out to us. We have pet retention services, and we will do whatever we can to help them keep their pet, because it's hard enough to be going through some kind of crisis in your life. But if you have to give up your pet that you've been attached to, that offers support to you, then it adds on to that stress. So we're going to do everything we can to help you keep your pet.
Okay. If a person reaches a point where they feel that they can't do that anymore, what's the next step for them to do this responsibly?
So again, they can reach out to us, and we'll provide them with resources to help them rehome their pet. Or we'll ask them, can you keep your pet for a few more weeks? If not, you can maybe ask someone in your family to care for it while we try to find it an adoptive home. The point being, we don't want that pet to have to come into the shelter. We want to keep it at a home while we find another home for it to go to.
Speaking of that, and we'll put up some pictures here of some of your programs where people have been coming in. We have some still photos to show here of one of your programs, one of them, I believe, that was done recently. Just kind of walk us through what's happening this day and what we're seeing here.
Yeah, so this is our mega adoption event. Adoptions events are so important for us to help spotlight our pets. This one was at the Doral facility. You can see it's a beautiful facility. We had food trucks, radio stations, and volunteers walking the dogs so everyone can get a good look at them. And as you see in these pictures, we have beautiful dogs, and they're all different. We had about 100 adoptions that day, so we're so thankful for everyone that came out. And we also had some cats adopted. I think we had about 50 cats adopted, but it's a family event, it's a community event where everyone can come in and see our beautiful shelter.
How often do you do this?
It's an annual event, but I think we're going to have to do a few more in a year in order to really showcase our shelter. I think a lot of the community doesn't know that we have this beautiful pet shelter in Doral, and this is their shelter. It's their animal shelter.
Well, there's one of your volunteers that
Yes.
we happen to know, and she looks like that she's enjoying her time with the puppy there.
She is. She's one of our very dedicated volunteers. And she's often seen walking dogs
Yes, she
with
is.
a beautiful
I see them
smile.
walk not far from my home with dogs on a
This
frequent
is Miss
basis.
Shepard right here, our faithful volunteer.
There you go. How many volunteers do you have, and how important are they to the operation?
They are so important because, as I was saying earlier, we are overpopulated and staff is just worn out. You know, when they get there as early as 5 in the morning, they have to feed the animals, they have to clean all the kennels, then they have to take them out for walks. Then it just circles all back, you know, start all over again in that they have to spot check. So it's very tiring for the amount of staff we have. So volunteers are essential because they provide enrichment for our dogs and they make sure that our dogs are getting out and walked for at least 10 minutes a day. So we couldn't do it without them.
Let's talk about the administrative aspects of this. You're just delving into this, I'm sure, finding out more and more, even though you were at the facility, now being able to actually run this for the entire county. What have you set administratively for your top priorities for your staff and for your infrastructure?
Top priority right now is dealing with the overpopulation. And we're coming at that through different programs. One is adoptions. So that's it's the short-term solution to the overpopulation and getting more dogs out or sending them on transports. We're really reaching out to rescues out of the state so that we can transfer dogs out. We just did 10 dogs, went to New Hampshire last week, and we're so grateful for that rescue. So we're reaching out to more.
Let me ask you about that portion of it,
Okay.
because, you know, for me, having my working dogs, which are either German Shepherds or Malinois,
Yeah.
I'm familiar with, you know, specific rescue groups appear to adopt and care for a specific breed of dog.
Yeah.
Tell me how you have worked to have these types of relationships in the first place. I was unaware of what you just said to me, and especially even out of state, and how important that can be in what you're trying to do.
Well, again, that's how we get to alleviate the population crisis at the shelter. It's so important, and that's one of my main goals when it comes to community outreach. I do want to foster a relationship with the rescues locally, and you know, they're able to refer us to rescues outside of the state. Yes, there are some that are breed specific, like you said, the Malinois, or there's Beagle rescues, there's Golden Retriever rescues. But luckily, there's also other shelters up in the north that are able to just take in a variety of dogs for us, which is what's most beneficial for us.
Okay. To the policy concerning euthanasia.
Yes.
Commissioner McGee has been here with us before on Miami Community News, and his love for pets and making sure that this is done responsibly for people who are concerned about an animal being euthanized. And obviously that's a very important element of the pet community and the number one priority for some people to make sure that that doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. Tell me what the policy is here in our county and how you apply that.
Well, I want to point out that the shelter has been a no-kill shelter since 2015. So that's been an incredible achievement. And that means that 90% of the animals that come into our shelter are saved. Additionally, Commissioner McGee presented the Save Charlie Act ordinance. Save Charlie ordinance says that if we're going to euthanize an animal at the shelter, it has to be proven aggressive. It has to have a medical condition that cannot be cured, or would be, you know, make the dog suffer if we treated it. And also if it had a behavior issue that cannot be rehabilitated. So there's very strict criteria that we have to account for if we were to euthanize an animal. And we've been able to do that for the past few years.
Okay, so I would take it from those procedures and protocols you need to follow, it would be extremely rare when an animal is actually euthanized.
It really is. Again, it's less than 10% of our animals that are euthanized. Unfortunately, many of the dogs that come into us are injured, right? Because when they're stray, they get hit by a car, or just the effects of living on the streets put them in a position where medically that's what's recommended. Sometimes there's little neonates that are found that, again, it's very hard for them to survive. And the most compassionate thing to do in that case is euthanasia.
Okay. On the positive side, we're coming up on Veterans Day, and obviously, from my background, I was sure who all of our veterans always love out there, and our law enforcement officers. Tell me a little bit about, and actually a lot about. I know on the military side that an animal can provide a tremendous amount of help, support, and assistance. Have been fighting to make sure that we don't have homelessness amongst our veteran population. On the Air Force side, I always say I've never been to Iraq, just over it. But for our Army and our Marine Corps and our people who are actually been on the ground in these combat zones, they come back and they many times have to deal with post-traumatic stress, these types of things. And the importance that an animal can play in the role, not just with our veterans, but with our law enforcement officers who are here in Miami-Dade County and South Florida, who also have experienced sometimes horrific things, and how pets can make a difference here and animals can aid us in that process.
Absolutely. It's so important. And that is an area that I would love to expand on, and working more with veterans, because you're right. If you are suffering from post-traumatic stress or just loneliness after COVID, we know so many people are suffering from being lonely. A pet can add so much love and affection to your life. It's, you walk into your house, there's someone to greet you. They're so happy. They're always happy to see you. They're never complaining because you're home. And when it comes to post-traumatic stress, they get you out, you go out for walks. It leads to a better, healthier lifestyle overall when you have a dog.
Okay. I think I know on the veteran side that our communities and, Gus that has been here that runs with the Miami-Dade County Commission, our veteran services and programs and outreach to the military. That's something that would be, fantastic. And I've seen that work,
yes,
many times.
Yes, absolutely. So we will be reaching out to expand and enhance our relationship with them. Because I agree with you, that is one place where we would both benefit, right? They'll benefit from getting a shelter dog, and we'll benefit because our dogs go into a loving home.
We had started to go down a path about your administrative priorities,
yes,
and then I threw a couple other questions in there for you. I want you to be able to return to that, to go and lay out what your plan, your foundation is, and to execute that going forward here in the county.
Right. So as I mentioned, adoption, really important. We'll be in the community. Hopefully you're going to see us more, have a visible presence in different events throughout the community, from North Miami all the way down to Homestead.
You have a mobile van.
We have a mobile unit. It takes out 10 dogs, and we want to be part of your, festivals and farmers markets and all kinds of events. So watch out for us because we're going to be there. The other thing I wanted to focus on is Mayor Cava is very focused on spay and neuter and really wants us to enhance our spay and neuter services, and that's what we're doing. So we have increased the access to spay and neuter. Every weekend now through the end of the year, we're providing more spay and neuter services out of our Cutler Bay facility. And one day could be focused on dogs, the next day on cats. But what we want to do is just get the word out that it's so important to have your pet spay or neuter, because that's what's going to help us with the long-term control of the overpopulation crisis.
Do we have any numbers that come to you about the volume of dogs and or cats in Miami-Dade County and what has happened with that, and why this spader and neutering program needs to really ramp up to control that population?
What experts are saying, particularly from animal welfare organizations and universities, what they find is that during COVID, unfortunately, we slowed down spay and neuter or just shut it down completely. So now what we're seeing is the effects of that slowdown. And there were many reasons. Number one, we were all quarantining, right, at home, staying at home. But the other reason was we were being very conscious about PPE and not taking from hospitals. So just as a conscious effort, we said we need to slow down, let them have the PPE. And the effects of that is, now we're seeing many more dogs in our communities.
I don't want our cat lovers to call me and say, hey, Willard, you left the feline population out. And more importantly, I don't want them to call you and go, hey, we didn't talk about the cats. So big picture, where are we doing with that in terms of population and adoption and the other items?
We have some exciting programs coming for our cat community. One of them is the TMVR program. It's been part of the Miami-Dade Animal Services program for many years, but every year we're increasing it and we're finding better ways to do it. We have the Community Cat Center in Cutler Bay that strictly focuses on cat surgeries. And we have a volunteer program called the Caddy program. These are trappers that will partner with us. They bring the cats to us overnight or early in the morning. We do the spay and neuter vaccines, and then they pick up in the evening and return the cats to their community. I want everyone out there to remember that cats are community pets. They are, we can't just remove them, the shelter, we don't remove them, but we will give them services, make sure they're healthy, and then we put them back into the community where they live.
When people come in to adopt, and again, we don't want to leave the cats out, what percentage come in and say, I only want a dog, versus the other percentage that come in and say, okay, I'm looking for a cat?
I don't have percentages, but I can tell you that our cats get adopted very quickly. When you see a kitten, it's one of those cute little things that, you know, people just will very easily commit to adopting our kittens. So we have a kitten room where you could come into the shelter and sit. There's a couch and chairs, and they're just free roaming, and people get attached right away when they come in there. So cats get adopted quicker, I think, than our dogs do.
Okay. In the big picture, we only have a couple moments left. Tell us about, and tell the community, if they're interested in adoption, if they need the spay and neutering services, if they have or in distress and they think, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to keep my pet. Tell them what to do, where to contact you and your team.
The easiest thing to do is contact 311. 311 will provide appointments for spay and neuter services or give you information that you are looking for, other programs that you may be asking about related to animal services. Or you can contact us on our webpage at miamidade.gov/animals.
Okay. And do you have any idea roughly in terms of the dogs and cats that are ready for adoption at this point? Roughly how many are out there?
Well, like I said earlier, we're at 350 is our capacity, but unfortunately we're at 700 dogs right now. And we have about 200 cats.
And some of those, as Gilda educated me about, the facility that you had prior, before you had your modern infrastructure, you're still using that some.
Yeah, well, we're lucky here in Miami-Dade County to have this overflow facility, right? We have the Medley shelter. That was the shelter that we were using prior to building this beautiful facility in Doral. And that is an open air facility that we've maintained throughout. While we were at Doral, we've maintained that shelter open. It was used very differently. It was used for quarantining animals before we sent them out of state, or maybe if there was some animals that were sick and needed to be separate, that's where they were. Today, we're using it because there are so many dogs that are coming in as strays from the community, and this is helping us keep them in a safe place. We feed them, we walk them until we can find a better outcome for them.
Short time left. Is there anything that's on your priority list now running our animal services department here in Miami-Dade County that you wanted to share?
No, just remind everyone to please come out and adopt. If you're looking for a pet, you think you have something in particular in mind, just open your mind, open your heart at the shelter, and I'm sure you're going to find a loving pet to take home. And secondly, spay and neuter.
Okay. We want our community to keep all of those in mind. The best to you as you move forward in this journey down the road. We certainly hope to see more of those programs and the truck out in more places. And obviously, our veterans being able to help from the animals that are with you and our community. And Ms. Jose, thank you for coming to spend time with us here on In the Know, Miami Community News. And also, we're pet lovers big time at Willard Shepard Media and Law.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I look forward to working together to get more dogs out of the shelter.
I'll leave you with a universal language, and that'll be ruff, ruff.